my family home.
It's your family's home.
Yeah. My mother always said to me, "Why does the garden look so sad? You know, after all, you know, you are who you are." And I said to her, "Mummy, it's called ownership." And then when I get very excited, I then climb up here. I'll demonstrate for the purposes of this audience. And you know, I've only got my salvia here. So yeah, it's a bit of it's a jungle. I mean, you know, they're all in planters.
They're all in planters?
They're all in planters.
Wow, so you've got some really good watering system going on here.
And I got a drip line in there. Jack Egan, he's a great sculptor. I love using he's got very inspirational, nothing's ever the same. That's what I love about him. The same with the heart there, yeah, which is his. I've got a nice big, floppy, you know, big-headed hydrangeas, which are then getting to their autumn colour now, where they'll go pink before they die back. Salvias, and you've got Daphne here, and you've got some fennel that I just cut back, and Astrantia just coming to its end. Yeah, white lavender, which is going, iceberg roses. That dog, its paws are sort of metal work, and all that's broken. Okay. So rather than trying to do a bodge up job on its paws, I put it in there.
Does it take a lot of work to maintain this?
We planted this liquid amber tree.
Is this the big one?
Yeah, we planted this 50-something years ago. Wow. With my father. We planted it.
So did your parents move in here 50 years ago?
Just over 50.
And that's when you started your business?
I started my business, yeah, when I was 21. So, yeah, that was when I set sail, and my destiny was in my hands. And yeah, fortunately, it was because I was working for my father at the time, who was a very famous interior designer. And he had one client who had a couple of gardens with the property, one in the Boltons and one in Addison Crescent, not bad addresses.
Big gardens?
Yeah, big gardens. My father was working with somebody else, and I said, why are you working with John, you know, why are you working with, you know, why can't I design it? He said, okay, if you want to design it, well, you can bid for the project. So I came up with what I thought was going to be, you know, great ideas and everything, and I got both gigs, so that's sort of like.
Well, that's pretty impressive.
It's not bad to start off with, but then you know you got to keep it up. I mean, you know, it's always very good. You can't have a rest. As they say, you're only as good as your last project, and you're finding other clients and all of that, which is all part of the parcel of the whole thing, and creating people's dreams. You know, I've had some fabulous clients. I mean, all over the world. You know, I've travelled from, you know, Canada to Hong Kong. And the people I've met and the countries I worked in Beirut. I worked a fair amount in the Middle East. We're doing a project in Riyadh at the present moment, which is very, very different. Very, very different.
What's that like, I mean, climate-wise and plant-wise?
Like impossible, you know.
And what do you create, what's currently there, and what do you...
There's nothing.
There's nothing?
It's a new site, totally new, virginal. So fortunately, being virginal, we're not inheriting anything. Yeah. So we can build it up, and we, you know, most important thing is getting the soil profiles and all of that science sorted out at the beginning.
So you check all the soil?
No, we import it all.
You import it all?
It will all be locally imported.
Wow.
But the most important thing I always do is make sure that I surround myself with the experts. And from having worked in the Middle East, I've worked with a particular person called Andre. Andre is an expert in not only plants but soil. Okay. And he will take on the project. So what we do is we'll do design intent, and then the locals do all the detailing. Okay. But we control the design and everything all the way through. They then do the detailing, and then we then control the planting and everything else. And then Andre works with us and making sure that we get the soil profiles and all of that working. So we don't have a problem. Because last thing I want is have a client who says, well, that was a great idea, Randle, but you know, why has it all gone tits up?
Well, it must be across the globe, it must be completely different.
Well, it is, it's like Hong Kong. I mean, the first time I went there and we started planting these things, and I looked at the stuff and I said, what on earth is this? This looks like a crushed granite. And it is a crushed granite. Tiny, fine particles, yeah. And then I said to them, well, we need to enrich it with manure. We need to create a structure, because it's all very well having that, but the trouble is when you do any fertilizer, it's like fertilizer just drops through it. So you need something that's going to sort of catch fertilizer, so nutrients in the soil, or it's nutrients in the granite structure, so that actually something there to hold on to. Hugely successful. In one single project we did in Discovery Bay, we had 900 trees that we brought in from mainland China.
900 trees?
Yeah, we brought in from mainland China.
I mean, Hong Kong's not known for its vast gardens.
No, but Discovery Bay's got some nice big spaces. Yeah. The largest house there was 8,000 square meters plot.
Wow.
It's huge. And we did 6 of those. So I mean, it was 12 years of work. I mean, that emanated itself from one trip. I went out with a guy called Paul Davis, who's a great architect, and he had an office in Hong Kong. And between the two of us, I mean, he obviously had a lot of clients already there, but between that 1 week, I ended up with 5 clients that gave me work for the next 12 years. So you it's always, never think about, always travel, always take that opportunity. Even if ultimately at the end of the day, you come back and think, well, that didn't work. But, if you don't try,
you never know.
You never know, and you never know what you missed out on.
Have you done grand plans for enormous estates?
We've done, quite a few. You just need to be careful what you're creating, because after all, at the end of the day, it has to be looked after.
Yeah.
And as I say to all clients is, when you're going to create such big grounds and things, to make sure that I make sure that they have a head gardener and the capability of being able to maintain it. Because if we're spending whatever it is, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of pounds on plants and things, that we don't want the whole thing to lose itself. No. And it does. Mother Nature is very quick at sort of catching you out and growing, and then suddenly saying, oh, there I am, I'm taking control of everything. So you have to be careful. So you need people in order to be able to do it, and then the clients then often engage me to come back to make sure and monitor that everything's happening, which is great fun. I mean, I love the fact, there was one property that I was trying desperately to get back to see, which was called the old vicarage, and I hadn't seen it for 20 years.
Really?
And it was sort of like, I was very apprehensive, because when you plant trees and you create this idea, this dream of that, the whole thing of what you always think about, how close do you plant trees? Never less than 8 meters together.
Okay.
Because they will, fill out. Between 8 to 11 meters apart. Because you have to think of longevity. And what you don't want to do is go planting trees too close to each other, because eventually they're going to suffocate each other. Yeah. They grow into each other, and then you end up with what is effectively something that's dead or lack of light. So it becomes an unbalanced tree. And then I was just like, when I arrived, I thought, I must be in the wrong property. Can't be, no, it's not possible. And it was like the whole thing had just leapt into a bigger, the trees were just huge, much bigger. And I think, they're not badly planted.
It's very special. You're creating something it's got a sort of, it's like little children, grandchildren living.
It's crazy. Thing. I said to one client, I did a project in the south of France, and I said to her, now you've got to make sure you look after my babies. And she looked at me and thought, okay, that's babies. I mean, I'm lucky that, my passion is landscaping, gardening. So, my work is my passion, my hobby is my passion. So some people say, have you got any other hobbies? I said, gardening's not a bad one. It keeps me pretty occupied. And then we got the Lexington Walk, and I planted that up, as you saw when you arrived. A lot of people love it and say thank you very much. And the fact they say thank you, not for just creating, but for the fact that I walk through here every day, and I so greatly enjoy that moment of that period of time. Their day. It makes them sort of feel they're in Mother Nature. So as long as they keep on smiling, I'll
going.
keep on. They see me sweeping the streets. They're confused. It's like, does he work here? Or, and I'm sweeping up the leaves, picking up the rubbish. Anyway, it keeps me out of trouble.
Has anything changed? I mean, I suppose with so many industries, and particularly now with technologies, so much is changing so fast. But over the last 50 years, what's changed?
Massive. It's an interesting question, because I always say to that, the one thing that's changed massively, I always take it sort of like, there's a thing called a par 38 light bulb, which still exists. But that was what garden lighting was. It was a very nasty, fat, ugly bulb that you could not see. And I always say, see the light but not the source. And we've gone from that really ugly to LEDs, which so they you don't have to replace the bulb. Irrigation. In the early days when I first started, if I suggested putting irrigation in, people look at me and say, completely mad.
Really?
It rains all the time here in England, till we get droughts. So now we have irrigation systems, which are pretty standard and very useful, and you need to have as a backup plan. I mean, so much has changed. I mean, when I started, it was just literally a handful of us in the industry. And now it's spawned hundreds, thousands of people, and it's great. It's a nice challenge to have all those other people in your industry, all creating new and interesting ideas. And I love them all. We used to have drawing boards. That's gone. Computers, was that staying? We do CGIs now. We've gone away from, we do, so depending on what the client wants. We'll do hand sketches. If the client wants a hand sketch, we get a hand sketch. Or they can get both, but obviously it costs money to do both, but hand sketch CGIs. CGIs make it much more realistic.
What's the process when you meet the client? How do you come up with the idea? You say every garden's different. How do you come to that conclusion?
It's what allow my imagination to run wild. What would I like to see?
Yeah.
And what are their likes and dislikes? More often than not, because landscape is such a sort of an unknown language to them. Talking about interior designers or interiors, they got lots of ideas and opinions. When it comes to landscaping, they look at it and think, "Ooh, it's big. What do I do?" They've got to be. Sometimes you have to be bold and say, "Well, you bought this house and it's got a nice tennis court there, but it's in the wrong place, so we need to move it."
That is bold.
And you explain it to them, and you say, "Look, this ruins the garden. You've got a beautiful garden here on the right, and what's on the left is ugly. It's a tennis court. We move the tennis court, just flip it over, so it's hidden, and then we create this beautiful garden."
The more I spend in the garden, the more I realise I think it's possibly one of the best things on the planet.
It is.
You're outdoors. It's an ever evolving game of seasonal. You've got to be so patient, and you're using your body and your. Yeah. I'm really excited about getting more and more into it.
And it's not something you can rush.
Well, look at us. We're now sitting in your garden having a chat. Thank you so much.
On a relaxed Thursday.